This one, so HPC does part one, registrar.
Exactly, we need one more, right?
Actually, you're good. You're 4, you're 4. I got something.
City council. That's what we want.
Well, it's good to see so many people out at the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I want to welcome you all. It's November 16th, and if you'd stand with me for the pledge, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have roll call.
Yes. Commissioner Hanley? Present. Commissioner Carell?
Here.
Chair Spin?
Present.
Commissioner Escobar?
Present. Has everybody read the minutes of our last meeting?
Sir.
Do we have a motion approved? Motion, seconded?
Second.
And for this vote, let's do it via hand because Commissioner Hanley, we're unable to get her logged into the system. That's okay.
So all in favor of approval of our minutes?
Aye.
4 yes votes. Do we have any written communications?
None.
Does anybody in the audience wish to speak about something that is or isn't on the agenda tonight? It's good to see so many people out there. Maybe we're going to see this as a new thing. Okay, public hearings, current business. Request PL 230388, a request to construct a 1,072 square foot second story addition to an existing non-contributing single-story home in the Escondido Historic District.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Vikram Chima. I'm a planning consultant augmenting city staff in the planning department. And I'm here to present the aforementioned case to you, which indeed is a second-story addition to an existing non-contributing house in the old Escondido neighborhood. We can see here on the project location, we're actually here at 721 on the south side of East 5th Street between South Fig Avenue and South Elm Street. A little bit of the project background. The site's approximately 7,000 square feet in area. It's located within the boundaries of the old Escondido Neighborhood Historic District. Its original construction date, finalization, was 1939. The project site is not listed on the city's local register, nor is it identified in the city's historic resources survey. The scope of work is the construction of a second-story addition, approximately 1,072 square feet, to an existing single-family residence, including a rear first and second-story covered patio. This would constitute, the project scope would constitute the removal of the existing patio stem walls and the construction of a hipped roof covered entry. The addition is programmed to convert the existing first floor to, which are currently split between kitchen and living room and bedroom areas, to all common family areas, which would include an entry foyer and a dining room, while the existing kitchen and living room would remain on the first floor. The second floor is programmed for essentially family uses, bedrooms, bathroom facility, and new laundry facility for the expanding family. You will see that the packet that was submitted as part of the project included as the proposal the conversion of an existing 360 square foot garage into an accessory dwelling unit. The City of Escondido's building department is responsible primarily for processing ADUs and require a separate building permit process. That process requires a site plan, floor plans, elevation, which includes the requisite requirement to include the types and colors of materials that will be used, existing and proposed. So we would request that because the process is separate, and also the applicants who is here and can speak to it, and you'll see on the plans that has made a conscious effort. I think their intent is that the ADU will be compatible in style and materiality to the existing and to the new compatible structure. But again, for the purposes of this analysis, we'll just limit our scope to the primary residential structure. So these are just some photographs of the existing property on the north and west facing elevations, which are primary and most visible from the public right-of-way. Some of the elements that I wanted to point out, you can see the masonry stem walls and the entry patio, and some wood framed 1/1 single or double hung windows. Not quite sure the operational capacity, whether they're single or double. But there are indeed wood windows with lintel and wood sashes with decorative horned sash elements. There's also a large casement window operating with side lights, also seen on the primary elevation. One can see the structure is clad in wide dimensioned wood shiplap and is currently has a hip roof form with exposed rafter tails. So a bit of an amalgamation of design elements. It's kind of a transitional period, and as was reflected in the staff report in 1939. So some Craftsman elements, some Mediterranean elements associated with this period. So it's a bit of an amalgamation of styles. These are the non-primary elevations. The east elevation is visible from the right-of-way. The south and west elevations are both largely non-visible from the public right-of-way. But just some photographs for your information. The street context is it's East Fifth Street, as you would probably know, has a significant grade and as it moves from east to west. And so on either side of the existing property, to the west is a two-story existing contemporary styled house, and to the east is a single-story minimal traditional type of house. But there is quite a significant grade differential between the three as we ascend east Fifth Avenue. You can see here the existing site plan. So the existing footprint and floor plate is largely is not changing. And we can zoom in a little further. We can see the existing floor plan, which has the entry patio and has a perpendicular entrance to the street into the living room, kitchen, laundry facilities, and then existing bedroom and bathrooms. The proposed site plan, we can see here is, again, this existing footprint is maintained, and essentially the crosshatched area in the rear denotes the additional rear patio at the first level and the covered patio at the second level. When we zoom in a little further, we can see the first floor plan is going to be programmatically changed a little bit so that the family can use the space with a different utilization. A proposed foyer is indicated. The existing living room is to remain. The existing kitchen is to remain. A bedroom would be converted into a proposed dining. Existing bath to remain, and then there would be the rear patio. The proposed second floor plan is where programmatically where the living spaces would be transferred to. So 2 additional bedrooms, master bedroom, master bath, additional bath, and laundry facilities. So again, the basis is for the addition is the expansion of living space and area for the family. Here's a comparison actually of the existing proposed roof plans. So the applicant and the designer architect has done a commendable job of maintaining the existing kind of hip roof structure. There is the inclusion of these dormers now that will be part of the second story. So the roof line is articulated in a slightly different way, but essentially the hipped roof is mimicking and replicating the original roof design. So this is the primary elevation, the proposed north-facing elevation, and we can see quite a few changes. The original patio stem walls will be demolished, and in their place would be a covered hipped roof entryway. The first floor would also feature, depending on the structure's ability to support the second story, there is the potential for retaining the existing wood shiplap siding and some of the existing primary wood windows on the primary elevation. And that would be a similar case for the windows and the exterior materials on the west-facing elevation. But these will be subject to the requirements of the general contractor and to see how structurally sound those exterior walls are, and if we can maintain those window openings and maintain the existing windows and the existing materials on the existing siding. In the case they would not be maintained, they would be replaced with like in kind material. We can get to the material, proposed material palette a little bit later. This is going to be the west-facing elevation, which would include potentially the original windows being retained in place and the original siding, if structurally feasible. Then there would also be the second-story addition, which distinguishes itself from the first with vertical siding, which has a smooth finish. It is fiber cement. That is the proposed material that would be for the second-story addition. Windows would be wood-clad in order to replicate the original windows. Muntin configuration would to be determined, but either compatible or slightly distinguishable from the existing windows, which are currently just 1-over-1 windows and don't have muntins dividing the individual lights. You can see the additional dormers and the asphalt shingles on the roof. Here we have the proposed south-facing elevation, which will not be visible from the street and largely denotes the covered patios. And the east-facing elevation, which again doesn't have the same solid to void relationship as the west does. The west is the visible elevation, but here we still have the vertical siding that's going to denote the second story, the hipped roof structure, the dormers, and the new windows that will attempt to replicate or be compatible with the existing windows. Just a sense of the three-dimensional rendering, north-facing, so you get a bit of an idea about the volume and the general disposition of the roof form and the second-story addition and the integration of the materials. The architect has done a significant amount of research, and as I said before, this original housing type is a bit of an amalgamation of styles, and the architect has drawn from several different types of architecture, arts and crafts, Mediterranean, some simplistic Victorian or Elizabethan styles, to try and reference historic buildings in the area so that there's some level of connection and relationship between the materials used and the architectural elements employed in the new structure to relate it to historic structures and to the original structure. And then just to kind of expand on that, the reasoning or rationale for where some of these architectural elements were derived from is these relationships. You can see the primary facade on the right side as it exists, and then the proposed facade. And you can see that the asphalt roof shingles will be reproduced, window detailing to be reproduced, wood windows where feasible will be retained, where not will be reproduced, the specifications to be determined. In additional, there would also be the fiber cement siding, vertical smooth finish for the second story, and the textured horizontal exterior siding for the first floor. And they are able to maintain the existing setback and the existing roof forms. And the materials employed, I've mentioned a little bit throughout the presentation, essentially Class A shingle style roof. Some smooth finished hardy board fiber cement, exterior vertically oriented siding for the second floor, textured hardy board fiber cement siding for the proposed materials on the first floor. And then those would be distinguished by some painted trim and the remaining materials, including the window specifications, would be to match to the greatest degree possible the existing window configuration, material style, and mounted configuration. With that, staff recommends that the Historic Preservation Commission recommend approval of the certificate of appropriateness to the Director of Development Services. I'm happy to take any questions or concerns.
Thank you. Who'd like to start? Questions? City staff? Okay, we might come back to you. Is the applicant here? Does anybody want to address the applicant anyway?
I mean, I guess I just have a question about the color palette. A lot of times,
Come up to the podium, please.
first of all, very thorough, good job. Looks beautiful.
If you'd state your name, please, for the record.
Shane O'Brien.
And I'm going to help out. My name is Joe Lucio. I'm the designer.
Awesome, great job.
Thank you.
So my only concern right off the bat, the thing that kind of stuck out to me right away is the coloration of the brown on the upper thing. I see a lot of neighborhoods like mid-century modern, Del Cerro, North Park, a lot of those areas where the houses aren't historic, but they're older homes, and they're using a lot of Ibam and Garris on those properties. You know that what I'm talking about? They use a lot of that on those properties, and it makes them almost look very modern. And the design, the rendering that you have is beautiful, but it makes it look like that. And so it really is making it look like it's a much more modern version with that one color palette. So, and then in the picture of the colors that you had, it actually looks like an Ipe or like a stained wood, dark walnut kind of window shutter. So that was my only concern, is that bold coloration coming across just looks very modern. And what's it going to look like ultimately?
That's a great question. Can I say something real quick? Even the Ryans, they have spent months on this project. They've walked around the neighborhood. They've done such a phenomenal job working with Vikram and Alex. So sometimes we always get right into the nuts and bolts. But I like to say, yay to you guys for doing all the work that you guys
Absolutely.
did.
Great job.
As for the color palette, that was not the intent to go on.
Okay.
Actually, quite opposite. What we tried to do is, I worked on a lot of historical projects over the years, and we try to separate the color tonality from the original home to something that's new.
Absolutely.
So that's why we chose a wood and a cocoa kind of stain, so that way that setback kind of feels like the building is pushed off the street. Because the building is a little bit taller, we want to make sure that we have that 4-inch relief in the second floor elevation, plus the tonality shift that helps kind of soften the overall mass.
Yeah.
If you see that coupled with trees and the overall foliage that exists on the site, the goal is everything is softened a little bit.
It might just be from the rendering, like the way it looks.
And that's what it is sometimes, the starkness of just the rendering without the actual concept within the palette. So yeah, I appreciate the question.
Got it.
The trim around the front window in the original house
Yes.
does not look anything like the trim around the front window in the proposal. I really want to see this look more like the original house. It might be classified as a non-contributor, but it is a contributor in the historic district. And I don't want to see the staff use that word, because every house in the historic district is a contributor. To what extent, that's to be determined. It's a wonderful post-war house. I would like to see the front of it emulate the original design more. This is the historic district. And I know that there are areas in San Diego where they're taking these houses and they're totally desecrating them. And I don't want to see that. And once we start watering down the historic nature of the district, it's lost. So I would just like to see more on this front elevation that resembles more the original house. I will say I'm impressed with the roof lines that you were able to just raise it up. But at least if the windows were trimmed out the way that they are in the original house, I think it would at least have a little bit of a throwback to what it was.
Can I address that? I think you're absolutely right, and I love the point that you made. In fact, one of the things we want to do is that window you see in the front should be it's the same window. The goal is to protect it. In fact, one of the things we're going to talk about the contractor is protecting the whole window assembly, including the trim. So if you don't see it very well, I apologize. We did the best to try to match it in our three-dimensional models. We only have so much to work with. But you can even see the size of the band at the top is the same exact window trim around. All the windows, the goal is they are identical. They don't get removed. Now, construction happens and we can't promise anything because that would be ungenuine. But what we're going to do is take the steps we've done in other historical projects, which is use plywood to cover up the window assemblies, use plywood to cover up the trim, so during construction, we keep everything intact. Remove everything after post-construction, check the assembly, make sure that it's airtight. If we do any kind of patch and repair, our goal is to go in there and selectively patch and repair the existing windows. So it's really going to be an effort between the clients, and once again, I praise the client for putting the money into the preservation component of the sort of first floor, and the general contractor that we select, who has the sophistication to protect these objects. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, and one other question. You say you've done other historic projects before? Anything in town here that?
Do you know San Diego, the Board of Supervisors, in the Pacific, the main Board of Supervisors chambers? I was the designer of their.
On the inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact,
So how about anything on the outside?
Oh, we kept identical for the county specifications because that is on registers, so we weren't touching. The only thing we did with the building, and I was working for Silman at the time as their senior designer, is we were tasked to go through and do kind of a patch and repair with a paint color to match the existing as close as we could because things fade over time. The interior component, we did just like the O'Brien dressings. We found and documented all the historical components that we could. And where we could, just like in this project, we're going to protect, seal, and encapsulate everything that we can during construction. The second thing is to basically highlight what they have and blend into what we propose. So it's the same construction methodology that we did in the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to close, well, it's really not a public hearing, so any comments?
No, I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to go forward with retaining the windows. I mean, I think the design is beautiful. I think they did a great job. They're extremely thorough. As long as the intent and as it goes through with the pre and post inspection, that remains, then awesome. I think it's beautiful. It's going to be one of the nicest houses on the block.
Any other? Well, let me say, did you have something?
No, I agree.
Okay. When I first saw this, I really didn't like it. I thought it was big, and it didn't look like the original house. I mean, it's a small post-war house. In driving by it, which I do pretty much every day, the house next to it is about the same scale. So I can bend that. I've always said that my goal in the historic district is to keep the integrity of history there and have houses that are usable and meet the need of the family. I wish it looked a little more like the existing house, but I have to say I will go along with staff's recommendation to approve it, even though I think in the future on a lot this size, to go this big is a little bit of an overstep in the district, not unless you're in an area where there are huge houses around it, which is very few areas like that. But in this one particular instance, I can appreciate the time that you put into it and the money you're going to spend on it. It's probably going to come out to be a little more than you think. So, do we have a motion?
Let me say one thing really fast. I think this is one of those instances where we have a project that is kind of right at the border of what we would accept. I think if it was a few steps past this, we would personally probably say no. And I think if you brought it to the board before us, you would have had no shot. Zero. So I think we're looking at, we don't want to stop progress in the city, and we love it when a homeowner wants to invest into a home like this. And you're going to make this home beautiful. We know you're spending a fortune on this house. And we, as a board, would hope that you would, and I know you have already, but as you continue forward, that you take those choices to look at the environment and go, we want this house to blend in and be a beautiful house in the neighborhood that adds to the beauty. And we don't want to have projects start coming to us that kind of push that envelope further and further, because then there's going to be a point where we go, no, like we can't, we want to keep our beautiful historic district, right? So we're excited about what you're going to do. I can't wait to see it, and you know, hopefully it turns out the way we all hope it does. So I do motion to approve.
Okay, and hold that one second. The only other thing I want to say is I know that you understand that there's no way you can apply for the Mills Act with what you're doing, or the register, at least not for 50 years. Okay, thank you. Second on the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's motion and seconded.
Voting is open, you can use the system. Motion approved, 4-0.
Good luck with your project. The hard part starts now.
I appreciate it. You guys are welcome anytime, so you want to come take a look,
Awesome.
come on over.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. PL 230397, list of single-family residents at 730 South Broadway on the city of Escondido's local register of historic places and execution of the Mills Act contract.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Alex Rangel, Assistant Planner for the Planning Division, and I'll be presenting item PL 230397, request for a local local register designation, and a request a recommendation for a Mills Act contract for a property within the old Escondido neighborhood. The project background: the project site is approximately 10,000 square feet and is currently addressed as 730 South Broadway. The home itself is located within the old Escondido. Located within the old Escondido neighborhood district, and construction of the home and the undertuck garage and the detached garage in the rear of the property were originally finalized in 1953. The home's architectural style is that of the contemporary, featuring the low-pitched hip roof with wide overhanging eaves, the open windows on the gabled ends of the structure, the recessed entryways, the asymmetrical facade on the front and sides of the property, and the natural construction materials, so standard wood frame construction. Notable additions to the property include the all-purpose room completed in 1955, which you can see in the the lower picture on your screens at this moment. Interior renovations to the all-purpose room in full completion was completed in 1992. Here you can see some additional property photographs provided by the BFSA Environmental Services. The shown photographs include the current views from public right-of-way from South Broadway and on the eastern facade of the residence, a closer look at the 1955 all-purpose room addition, and the detached garage to the rear of the property with one of the residents there as well. The applicant today is applying for their home to be placed on the local register of historic places, which was established with the city of Escondido to provide a means to preserve, protect, and enhance the most significant historical resources within the community. Structures applying for the local register must meet 2 of the 7 criteria outlined in the Escondido Zoning Code, section 33794. BFSA Environmental Services has conducted a historical review to assist the property owner and the planning division to assess the property. BFSA conducted an intuitive survey of the property, reviewed the building characteristics, and prepared an in-depth report regarding the property's historic status. BFSA and the planning division have concluded that the property meets 3 of the 7 criteria outlined in the Escondido Zoning Code. Criteria 2, that Escondido building or buildings that embody the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural site, specimen, or representative of a recognized architect's work and are not substantially altered. The residence itself, as we discussed earlier, is one of the contemporary architectural style, embodying 6 of the 7 criteria outlined in the Field Guide to American Houses. The last major construction was completed in 1955, and the property has not been significantly altered since that time. Criteria 5, Escondido historical resources that are 50 years old or have achieved historical significance within the past 50 years. Building permit records and assessor parcel data show that the structure was originally constructed and finalized in 1953, making the property 70 years old. And criteria 6, Escondido historical resources that are an important key focal point in the visual quality or character of a neighborhood, street, area, or district. The Escondido History Center, in conjunction with the Old Escondido Neighborhood District, assert the home as architecturally significant within the Old Escondido neighborhood and have regularly showcased the property on the Old Escondido West walking tour of notable homes, as well as the Old Escondido's Mother's Day tour in the past within your packets as the 2009 Mother's Day tour. In addition, the applicant is requesting a recommendation for approval for a Mills Act contract to go along with their local register application. The Mills Act contract is a contract entered in with the City of Escondido, which allows for a reduction in property taxes for qualified historical resources. The contract requires the property owners agree to preserve and restore the properties and outline standards of the contract. Contracts are valid for a minimum of 10 years and are automatically renewed every year unless otherwise requested by the property owner or the city. All of the proposed improvements shall require a staff-level review at the time of the improvement to ensure compliance with the Mills Act contract through the certificate of appropriateness process. The proposed improvements from the applicant include the following: replacing some of the rotten beams in front of the house above the garage, replacing warped window frames throughout the property, replacing repainting the existing exterior of the home and fixing, touching up, replacing damaged windows, glass panes on existing windows, replacing cracked skylights, skylight framing, and repairing roof areas of the surrounding property, repair and repaint decorative gates that are on the home, repair and repainting some of the rotten eaves on the roof lines, designing and installing decorative screening for the recently installed electrical equipment across the property, and installing exterior lighting that would enhance the safety and the visual appearance of the home. In conclusion, staff recommends and requests that the Historic Preservation Commission approve the listing of the property in the city's local register of historical places and recommend to the City Council approval of the Mills Act contract. Staff is available for any questions you have, and the property owner is here as well.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have a question, staff?
I do. Regarding the replacement of the warping window frames, how do you propose to do, how does that work?
Admittedly, I can't really speak for the building permit process itself. Looking through the provided pictures from the BFSA, as well as looking at the property myself, it appears to be one of those things that just kind of happens with time, as far as some of the existing damage on the property. Replacing the warped windows, whenever they do come through the certificate of appropriateness process, we would ensure that the frames itself, the actual style, the materials that are going to be used, would still be appropriate for the contemporary style of the architecture.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Any other questions? Okay. In looking through the, it's great to see you hit 10 points for the list.
Took your recommendation to heart.
I counted them. It's a lot of, when they say to repair, what fellow commissioner was talking about, the warped window, I expect it to be done right, because every one of these bullet points, even if you have a year for every point, you realize that tax savings. And I just want to make sure that the integrity and the quality of the repair, I know when it comes to the counter, getting a building permit, they're really not looking at the historic aspect or how it reflects the original one. So I don't know, is there any way we can?
Yes, part of the building permit process itself, properties on the local register and Mills Act are flagged for whatever building permit comes in. That planning division needs to review them with the certificate of appropriateness process. Typically for any property within the old Escondido neighborhood, our building division staff are aware that planning division does have an initial re-screening process and an initial approval process for any building permits that go through for any exterior modifications to the property. Whenever the warped windows will be repaired in the future, they will be immediately flagged and brought to our attention in case they do not come to inspection.
Okay, that's good to hear, because I know that there's a lot of stuff that slipped through the cracks in the recent past.
I will say that some properties are unaware that windows require building permits, and they have gone to attention otherwise.
That's correct, because
this property owner has been well informed that this entire process needs to begin with the planning division for all steps.
Because it used to be if you didn't alter the structure of the house, you could change the windows, but that's changed completely, where you have to get a permit even if you're not altering anything structurally on the house. We just need to get that out there. Thank you so much. Does anybody want to talk to the applicant? Okay. All right. Then do we have any comments or motion? Go ahead.
Motion to approve, as staff recommends.
Second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. You can all vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Yes, okay.
Congratulations. You have to be involved.
I do. I feel very
Okay, moving on to the next item here.
Again, Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Alex Kelligan, Assistant Planner for Planning Division. I'll be presenting item PL 230410, design review for a detached garage and property within the old Escondido neighborhood. Project location is addressed as 851 South Hickory Street on the western side of South Hickory Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. The home sits on a 6,670 square foot lot in the old Escondido neighborhood, but is not listed on the local register of historic places, nor is it listed on our historic resources inventory. Original construction of the residence was in 1957 and it was originally located at 1025 West Valley Parkway. The residence itself was relocated to its current address in 1988, pursuant to City Case File 88-75-PPL. All existing structures requiring permits were constructed in 1988, along with the relocation, according to available building permit records and the San Diego County Assessor's data. Here are some of the more appropriate views of the current property, including two separate views from the home on South Hickory Street, and a view of the existing carport location and a proposed location of the garage from the alleyway. Additional photographs can be found in attachment 2 on your staff report. Shown here and provided in your staff reports as attachment 3 are the existing and proposed site plan. Again, the project scope is the demolition of the existing carport in the rear of the property and the construction of a new 570 square foot detached garage facing the alleyway. Provided here are the proposed elevations for the garage, showing the proposed installation for the garage door, access doors, and the rear window. Material samples have been provided by the applicant and can be more clearly viewed in attachment 4 of your staff report. The exterior stucco and composite shingling will match that of the primary residence. The garage door will be of steel construction. The access doors will be of wood frame construction. The proposed window will be of sliding glass vinyl construction to the rear of the garage, not visible from the public right of way. Historical analysis of the structure has been conducted by planning staff per the regulations and guidelines set forth in the city's design guidelines for homeowners of historic resources. Of note, the design guidelines do not provide specific guidelines for outbuildings such as garages, so the general guidelines for which planning staff typically provide for residential additions have been modified to best fit the project. The table can also be viewed in your staff report for more clarity. Planning staff have identified two minor discrepancies with regards to the design guidelines. The existing home has a low-pitched hitch roof, while the garage proposes a standard gable roof, which is more typical for outbuildings of this construction type. The vinyl window shown in the previous materials slide is also not of time-appropriate construction. However, it does align with the design guidelines recommendation for vinyl windows installations to not be visible from the public right of way. In conclusion, planning staff recommends that the Historic Preservation Commission recommend approval of the proposed project, and planning staff is available to answer any and all questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff? It pretty much does. I would like to see at least the roof on the garage match the house. I don't know how much effort that would take. This home is actually eligible for the Mills Act, and as long as nothing happens to it, it would be nice to have the outbuilding, the garage, even though it's going to have a vinyl window, which I'm not going to object to. Well, I would like to see the roof pitch match, but either way, I would support staff's recommendations.
In discussions with the applicant regarding the hipped roof, does increase construction costs significantly to alter the roof in that manner. They're curious about it. They've looked into it. However, they're still proposing the gable roof just to reduce construction costs
Significantly is huge, or
I didn't get any numbers. The applicant wasn't too thrilled about the hip pitch concept, just simply because of the cost. They looked into it in the original construction documents, but they were more leaning towards a standard gable roof simply for the consistency of garage types.
thank you. Any more comments or motion?
Anybody else want a motion to start?
I'll motion to approve the staff recommendation.
A motion, we have a second? Moved and seconded.
Yeah, voting is open.
Bring the easy ones.
Do my best.
It's nice when people.
I'm doing it.
Little set out.
No worries, Chair Span. How do you vote?
You got it?
Didn't come through, but how do you just verbally say?
Okay.
it? Yeah.
I count 5 yes votes, so the motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, next thing on our agenda. Case number PL 230075.
Got it way quicker than you thought.
Quicker than I thought.
Design review for a building conversion to a second-story residential use.
Yes. One second here. Good afternoon. Jay Paul, Senior Planner, good to be back from the Historic Preservation Commission.
Good to have you back.
Yes. The last item on the agenda tonight is an adaptive use of the existing two-story commercial building at 143/245 Grand. Probably better known as the ground floor is the Grand Tea Room, and also a design studio utilizing half of the space on the bottom floor. The upper floor is the same size, about 4,000 square feet as the bottom floor, and it is currently vacant on the second floor. This is a overhead view of the site. You can see the building up along Grand Avenue takes up about half the site. The rear has alley access and currently is used for, there's a transformer back there, a trash enclosure, and access to the bottom floor. It also has space for a few parking spaces that are currently used and some storage. This is the view from the front. It has a commercial vernacular architectural style of building. It hasn't been significantly modified over the years. It was modified in the 90s with a certificate of appropriateness to redesign a portion of the bottom floor to recess some of that entry in and have those storefront glass windows in front. The rear of the structure is recessed. You can see here, primarily covered up with the vines on the structure. You can see there are some upper story doors leading to nowhere, assuming in the past there was probably some type of balcony and stairway to provide access to the upper floor. Right now, the upper floor has current access from the bottom, from the commercial, but no exterior access. Here's a closer look. You can see those exterior doors. Actually, there is a small little stairway leading up there to that, but they are unused. The applicant is requesting to take that upper floor, approximately 4,000 square feet, and remodel the inside to accommodate up to 4 two-bedroom apartment units on there, provide some additional housing. To do that, they'll have to upgrade the interior to provide, to change it from commercial to residential occupancy, which triggers some items for life, health, and safety issues. You've got to have appropriate access, rescue windows, egress for fire and building. Also, from a planning standpoint, we require a certain amount of parking, open space for the project, which they are providing with on the in the area in the back covered parking spaces for six parking spaces to serve the 4 units. Relocation and reconstruction of the trash enclosure. The transformer is very large, will have to stay. We also have to dedicate 2 feet of the alley for future improvements to the alley. With the additional space, they'll be providing stairways, a new stairway and stairway landing to those units. Access will now be provided, I'll show you the next picture, to the interior units. They'll still have access from the ground floor to the commercial, but they'll have a hallway access from a single door along the rear of the facility. However, the units facing Grand Avenue, those windows will have to be now rescue type windows. So if the fire department and there's access issues to the back and the bottom, they'll be able to get out those front through Grand Avenue through the ladder truss or ladders. The covered parking space will also provide the open space opportunities. They have to provide a minimum space, so they will program that to be a roof-level parking deck that will double as kind of outdoor recreation seating areas for the project facing the alley. A quick view of the interior. Primary access will be from the new stairway and that landing area here to the units. You'll have a central area here where you'll access Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 1, and Unit 2 from that central area. You can see the stairways, that stairway that leads down to the commercial on the bottom floor. Improvements to Grand Avenue would be replacement of the existing windows with windows that, as close as they can mimic the multi-pane look. They'll also function as the new rescue windows and be more energy efficient to meet any residential standards for the project. But primarily improvements are to the rear in this area. They'll be taking down out those existing stairs and replacing that with parking here on the right. You can see the tuck under parking, the upper balcony, which will provide the open space amenities for those residents. The stairway, they'll be removing those doors, you can see them here, that are there, and providing a new central door to the facility and putting in new windows for the units that face the alley. And the windows will try to match as closely the existing design as the existing window. They also will be repainting the structure, you see here, in a color that's very similar to the existing, that light tan. The rails will be a dark brown. Accent features around the doors will be that dark, right here, sorry, area here, and that will also match the windows, the light sconces. They will be replacing, we go back to the front, the light sconces underneath to match the ones that we'll be putting on the back of the facility, which will be under that existing fabric canopy. Zoning code requirements. This project, because it's on the local register, requires the Historic Preservation Commission to review the proposed modifications to the site and the building, use of materials, to determine consistency with the downtown specific plan guidelines. The downtown specific plan guidelines are very vague, are very general for historic structures and for commercial structures. Try to retain the integrity of the structure, the historic content, and use of similar materials as best as possible for the structure, which I believe the applicant has done that with the project. And the architect is here to answer the questions you would have. The HPC is making a recommendation on those determinations. Ultimately, this project has to go to planning commission and council. They're doing a master development plan for that. So the recommendations will go to the planning commission from HPC. Ultimately, planning commission will make a recommendation to council at a public hearing, and they will make a determination on the project. Therefore, staff is recommending of the project as designed, and the applicant is here to answer any questions you might have. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have a question of staff? Does anybody have a question of the applicant? Seeing none, I'll just throw my 2 cents in. This is exactly what I look for to happen in the historic district, and I consider all of Grand Avenue the historic district, even though there's only 3 blocks of the core historic district. I love the project. I love that building. We've lived here for 45 years, and that's one of the couple of buildings that I would have loved to own and done just exactly what you're talking about doing. The historic value of that being the first hospital. Dr. Grable used to work out of that 2nd floor there and take his patients to San Diego if he had to operate all day in a wagon. There's so much history in that building, and I think what you're looking to do is to maintain the outside appearance, basically. Maybe you can call the hospital lofts or something, just some kind of a throwback to the historic aspect of the building. But I think it's a great project, and we don't need any more commercial upstairs without parking. You've got parking there. you're going to have a great neighbor across the alley when John Paul the Great gets their building taken care of. I think it's excellent.
Great adopted reuse of property. When I saw it come up for sale, I was like, man, what can I do with that building? I had no idea. This is great answer.
John Paul the Great, their building is in, I think, their San Fernando.
That's great. I've seen all their stuff there back years ago on the Planning Commission. I think everything they do is quality. Looking forward to it.
There's so much vacancy on Grand Avenue, like this kind of thing would be great, just to see people start using those spaces, you know?
And I don't think you'll have any trouble renting them. Well, I moved to approve this one. Just, but
I don't know. I'll have to ask the applicant. It may be a requirement of the Green Building Code.
It's a flat roof, so if they put up there, you may not see it up there, but I don't know the answer there.
and I think that's not really in our scope as far as we were told a long time ago. We can't talk about solar. Anybody applies for it, it's a slam dunk.
Or you use it.
Right. Yes. Okay. So anyway, I'd move that we approve staff's recommendation here.
Second.
Moved and seconded. 5 yes votes, so motion passes.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Any subcommittee reports?
Oh, Chair Span, we have 2 more items.
All right.
Board and Commission Subcommittee update and then the Mills Act contract.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry about that. So I'll provide you, I just want to provide the Commission with an update from the Boards and Commission Subcommittee and some context because it directly affects the HPC. Back in 2021, Mayor McNamara and Councilman Martinez formed a Board and Commission Subcommittee. They reviewed all the different commissions and basically determined they wanted to expand from 5 to 7 members, create uniform bylaws, and basically review the process of reporting, having the annual mixer that we had a couple of weeks ago, that kind of stuff. Then after last election, Mayor McNamara was not reelected. Mayor White took his seat on that subcommittee, and the subcommittee is now looking at commissions in the sense of the overall scope of the city with the revenue situation the city is facing, coupled with trying to expedite the process for development, so that way we're in alignment with what's called our Comprehensive Economic Development Study, which is a SEDS program for economic development. Basically, what it boils down to is that the subcommittee, Councilmember Martinez and Mayor White, are going to recommend to the City Council the potential dissolution of the HPC and have the HPC's responsibilities fold into the Planning Commission, and then have some of those responsibilities potentially fold over to staff, depending upon what kind of administrative things they can do. The subcommittee specifically wanted me to let you know before any council action was taken because they wanted to let you know that, and also it's not a done vote. It needs 3 votes on the City Council. In addition, they wanted to time the way this would work with the expiration of the majority of the terms for the commissioners sitting on the commission, which expire March 31st, 2024. So I think we have 4 seats that are set to expire at that time. And then furthermore, they wanted to, if it's possible between now and then, have the commission create a strategic planning document that could be provided to the Planning Commission, so that way as they're making historic related decisions that the HPC normally would be making, they could reference back to it, and that would be the desire of the subcommittee. So I wanted to provide that all to you because I wanted to give you guys a complete direction as to where the council is heading. It's not a final decision yet. You can still have discussions with the council members. They were very open about that. They just wanted to make sure that you were aware before anything was brought to council so you didn't get caught off guard. But that's kind of in a nutshell what they're planning right now. So I'm happy to answer any questions because I've sat in all those subcommittee meetings as they've deliberated.
It's more like a financial decision, right?
Primarily, yeah, financial and efficiency, because the city, as you might be aware of, is facing a $10 million budget deficit going to the next cycle. So there's just some different pain points we're having to have, and cuts are definitely on the table. So this is not necessarily seen as a cut, but more of an area of efficiency. And since the Planning Commission tends to review some of these items, that's what their thought was, is try and have the Planning Commission serve in some capacity acting as the HPC. So, but I also want to let you know, because we do specifically, setting all of that aside, we do have 4 seats available on the Planning Commission that are set at the same exact time. So if you were still interested in serving, and if the council ultimately decides to go the direction of dissolving the HPC, then you could still apply for the Planning Commission, which would be available at the same exact time. So that's kind of
you have some say pretty quick, but.
No, I think that's,
Yeah.
he's already answered my
Is there-
question.
I guess, ultimately, it's not our decision, so we're volunteers that are here to help out, with a heart for protecting our community. Would there be a suggestion you could pitch to them of like, hey, this is what it is, but could there be 2 seats or a representative of us?
Yeah.
That would have, like, almost, like, not guaranteed.
Yeah, but a
like-
seat on the planning commission.
Yeah.
I've broached that subject already with Mayor White, so he's open to that concept because he ultimately makes suggests the appointment, and then the council has to ratify the appointment. So that's something I think that he was open to. I haven't pitched it yet to Councilor Martinez because she doesn't have the authority to make the appointment, but I want to get his approval first. But I will bring that up again, and it's something that could be reiterated even if you have dialogue with them as a point as well. But I'll bring that up.
Thank you, and that's not really going to happen for a little while. So
Yeah, so
we
I
have
would
to
anticipate.
organize our.
Yeah, you can organize, so what I would suggest for as far as timing of the commission, if you're interested in creating a strategic planning document that can be handed to the planning commission, if you see that as valuable for your time, because I don't want to speak on your behalf, then I would just agendize something that you could start at the next meeting, or if you want to create a subcommittee that could actually spend some time together to create that and hand it over to the planning commission, because the current planning commission doesn't necessarily have historic background, because when they applied and were appointed, that wasn't necessarily their forte. So I would maybe consider how you want to approach that, but that's totally up to the commission's discretion. Also, you're already spending so much of your free time doing this, so I don't want to ask you to do more. So
I don't know that it's even feasible to come up with any kind of a document that would describe experience and being here and knowing what's historic and how to.
Wouldn't even know.
I bet if you ask the planning commission what's the Mills Act, I'd be very surprised if any of them could tell you.
yeah, and that'll be incumbent upon city staff, the representatives, to basically educate them and go through that process. But I think to your point, Commissioner Carell, Vice Chair Carell, the value of having a HPC commissioner serving in that capacity on the planning commission would go a long way to be able to directly answer those questions. So,
And I would absolutely attend.
Yeah.
Volunteer.
As a lawyer.
yeah, most definitely. Like I said, there's 4 seats available, so I'll be sure to let the mayor know. And if you do have any questions specifically for them, both the mayor and Councilor Martinez said that you can reach out to them as well.
Yeah.
If you have any questions. Yeah. Wait.
I think the only thing for me is like move forward. I get changes are being made for different reasons. I think when the city's at a place where it can dedicate more resources and more time, both right on especially on the staff side, with work with HPC members, work in whatever capacity that might look like, whether it's a planning commission or not, to create a growth strategy. And I feel like that's something I've shared since like I joined. It's like I think we need a plan to, and I get that we're restraining resources and staff time. So almost like when we feel that we're in a better place, that can be a priority of HPC acquisition.
And we have a Mills Act contract subcommittee formation, is that?
Yeah, this was a future agenda item that Commission Vice Chair Carell had asked for at the last commission meeting. I want to put it after this previous item I discussed, because I don't know if you still want to create a subcommittee, you can, but the original intention, as I understood, was basically this group would potentially serve in a way as a support to staff to help review the Mills Act contracts before they come to HPC. But I don't know if you want to do that, form that for the next number of months, 5 months or so. It'll be up to your discretion.
I mean, I'm from a place of like, if it's a foregone conclusion or more than likely that they're gonna absorb us into something else, then that's kind of waste of time.
Well, at the same time, it might be even more valuable then if we are absorbed.
But in 5 months, we won't.
Right, we won't know.
Right. Is that what we could do?
Oh, as a commission, but I don't know, if we formed a subcommittee, would that be part of the commission, or would it be part of would this people at the counter call us and say, hey, you want to come down here and review this, or?
Yeah, how it would actually functionally work, I would leave that to Ivan to be able to describe. But to answer your prior question, though, if the council majority ultimately votes to have the HPC's role ultimately absorbed by the planning commission, this subcommittee would not continue because these members of this subcommittee would not be part of the planning commission. However, the planning commission could create a subcommittee about Mills Act as well. So it's practically how I have none of
Yeah, thank you, Zach. So I think, Zach makes a good point about the subcommittee. I think staff's intention is to evaluate our existing municipal code and make changes as appropriate. And so I think that the idea of a historic preservation work plan would assist staff in what that might look like. And so Zach is correct. The creation of a Mills Act contract subcommittee is probably not pertinent anymore with how things are moving forward. But I believe the idea is to come up with a plan of what does historic preservation look like in Escondido without the Historic Preservation Commission, if that ends up being the case. Obviously, it's not solidified yet.
Thank you.
Sure.
We're all volunteers.
Yeah.
How much are we contributing to the budget deficit?
Yeah, it's not the, yes, it's the, it's the staff time that goes into it prior to, so primarily,
We're gonna take over the secondary part that we do.
what's that?
We're gonna take over the part that we.
So the same staff serves in that capacity, but you'll see that it goes from HPC to Planning Commission to City Council more often than not. So by eliminating that step, it's expediting not only the approval process, but then not having duplicate work for staff. And that's basically from the financial perspective why you're not having the HPC from council's vantage point once against the council recommendation.
I think the one thing that we're tasked with as a commission is to administer the Mills Act. And that does not have to go to the planning commission. It goes from us to the council.
Correct.
So I know we talk about a lot of other things that might end up in the planning commission. But I personally, I see the staff putting just as much time into preparing all the stuff for the planning commission as they do for the HPC. So I think it's a little bit of a pie in the sky to think that we're going to be saving the city money by abolishing this commission. We've gone through a lot of effort to maintain the historic integrity of Escondido, and that can be lost in no time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my thoughts.
No, most definitely. And that's why as the commission processes this, at the next meeting, which I believe is January, if at that time, after you've thought about it, if you do see any value of at least articulating those viewpoints in some form, writing it just a document or like a bullet points I could share with the council or bullet points I could share with the planning commission so that way they have some sort of understanding of not, because taking my city clerk hat off for a moment and just speaking as observer of these different conversations that have happened over time, I think my bigger concern is losing some of the value of historic preservation, and if we don't have the right people who get appointed because we don't control that process right now. So I think as you're considering your desire to maintain historic preservation in Escondido, think about what these last few months could do to help that. That's kind of all.
Well, maybe as we're processing right information, I think it would also be helpful to hear like staff, right? You're so here, like what do you need support with to ensure that we're so yeah, so for me, like hearing from staff, right? Like what do you need support with? How can we support your department's mission also of like ensuring preservation? And then hearing maybe from us, right? Just in writing like what are some things, maybe not a report or a plan, but at least like some recommendations on how to do that with the reality that we have now.
I think that's a really good question. The purpose and intent of city staff is to support the commission and what the goals are of the commission, and us doing our best to bring those goals to fruition. And so, at the direction of the commission, staff will support where resources are available. And so, we'll leave it to you to decide on how you want to move forward with the potential dissolution happening in March.
Any other comments? Thank you so much, Zach.
You will let us know about the application process?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
I'll send you all an individual email with the application link.
Or just need to run for election?
Yeah. No, hey, there are 2 seats on the ballot. And
Saturday doesn't pay well.
yeah. No.
Okay, well, I'd open it up for oral communications, but I don't see anybody. Any other commissioner comments?
Can we bring alcohol last meeting?
You know, we can vote on it. Okay, So the November 16th meeting of the HPC is over. What's that?
So what do you guys do if it becomes commission next year? Okay. You're like, yeah.
You got drunk at the next I wasn't there, so you can't blame me.
Oh, man, yeah, there was all kinds of beer.
I'm antisocial in general, so.
Same. I was playing hockey.
I have a football coach for high school, a baseball coach for high school.
Timestamp November 16th, 2023.